De Infinite Way, Joel S. Goldsmith. Vervolg van de besloten klas in Holland op 13 oktober 1959.
You must in that very instant bear witness to the fact that the grace of God alone is functioning here. God's presence alone is real. And any appearance to the contrary, regardless of its name or nature, has no law of God to create it or maintain it or sustain it, and it must fall by virtue of its own nothingness, by virtue of the fact that it has no God to enforce it or perpetuate it. You may be very busy about your housework, your cooking. You may be very busy about your commercial activity or your artistic activity when a call comes to you for help, but you dare not say, I will help in 5 minutes from now. Every treatment must be at the minute of contact with the problem. I'm sure that if you were walking along the street and you saw some children marking up the street with chalk and putting down 2 times 2 equals 5, I'm sure that in that second you would smile and to yourself say, oh no, it's 4. I'm sure you wouldn't wait for an hour or for 5 minutes. At that very instant in passing, you would smile and say, that's a mistake, it's 4. Even though you may not be called upon to say anything to the children, because actually they may know it too and just be having fun. We are not always called upon to correct the sins of those we meet, even though we recognize them to be sins or errors. We are not always called upon to tell the sick that they can be spiritually healed. They have the right to their own lives. But you have the right to your own life, and that entails the responsibility of meeting every appearance of discord at the moment of meeting it. And it doesn't take long, it only takes long enough to smile. Realize the grace of God is here. The place whereon I stand is holy ground. All that the Father hath is mine. And there's no law of God to sustain any appearance of discord. No law of God to sustain inharmony, sin, disease, lack, limitation. That's all. Now, in the infinite way, we never, under any circumstance, treat a person, not even if they request it. We have no room in our work and no provision for ever, under any circumstance, giving a treatment to a person. We don't recognize a person needing treatment. We recognize that in spite of the appearance, the grace of God, the presence of God is the only person there is. Therefore, our treatment is always directed to the appearance. Therefore, we never take the name of a person in treatment. Therefore, we never use the name. Therefore, we never even ask the name of a patient unless they want to give it. As a matter of fact, most of the names you get aren't real ones anyhow. You see, the women all give you their husband's name. So you're not really calling them by name, even when you call a patient by name. And sometimes a man may change his name. Therefore, names in treatment are of absolutely no importance. And if God is infinite, and if God is infinite intelligence, God knows why you are declaring a truth and what about or who about. So it is never necessary to tell God the name of your patient. Now with us, there is no provision at any time for giving a treatment to a person. As a matter of fact, I have been requested dozens of times by people who believe in that form of treatment, and who say, if only you will sit by my bedside and give me a treatment, I will get well. And I say, I wouldn't sit at your bedside and give you a treatment if I knew you'd get well. I'm not that much interested in whether or not you get well. My interest is there a principle of life which will heal at 10,000 miles distance as well as here? And if I have to sit by a bedside and give a patient a treatment, then I'm not being fair to my patients on the other side of the world. Now, the Master said, ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And that's your function in the infinite way, and its mode of practice. When you become aware of a discord, if I say to you, give me some help, I don't want you to bother with Joel. I want you to turn away from Joel and realize here is the very presence of God itself, and any appearance to the contrary, any appearance of sin, disease, death, lack, limitation, inharmony, or discord has no law of God to sustain it. It wasn't created by God. It isn't maintained by God. All it is really is a belief, a universal belief, not Joel's belief. Joel is just a victim of a universal belief in two powers. Therefore, don't treat Joel, treat the universal belief, and Joel won't have it anymore. Now, any discord that is touching you, you are not responsible for. It is a universal belief which has entered your consciousness and of which you are the victim. Therefore, if I wish to meet it for you, I must lay the axe at the root of the tree and not try to clip off branches. And so, instead of being concerned with you, I go to the root of you, which is the universal belief, and nullify it there, and then it has no outlet in you or through you. So then, you are asking me for help. And you may give me your name, you may not, it makes no difference to me, suit yourself. You may tell me the nature of the problem if it'll make you feel any better. And it's good sometimes to get it off your chest, get it out of your system, and then forget it. If I'm your practitioner, I have forgotten it before you got through saying it, so that I wouldn't know the next day what your problem was. And if you came to me and said, that particular pain has stopped, I really wouldn't know what particular pain, or if you had ever mentioned one, because I'm not listening. I am at work while you are talking to me. I am at work when I'm reading your letter. But I'm not thinking of your name. I'm not thinking of this problem. I'm thinking of the truth that I must know. And the truth is this. This individual is the presence of God, the life of God. This individual has no life but God. And it's eternal and immortal, and it's not subject either to matter or mind. It's not subject to material conditions or mental conditions because it lives and moves and has its being in the presence of God. Therefore, only the grace of God is operating, and this appearance, whatever its name or nature, is Antichrist. An impersonal malpractice, a universal belief. the carnal mind, the belief in two powers, the arm of flesh or nothingness. By that time, I'm ready to sit back and say, I've said my say, now, Father, it's your turn. Speak, Lord, thy servant heareth. And then I sit, and within a few minutes, this feeling of the presence comes, and the treatment is complete. It doesn't necessarily mean that you receive a full and complete healing, because remember, you're not suffering from any physical or mental condition. You're suffering from a universal belief, and you have not yet come to the realization of this. And so it may take 2 treatments or 2 years of treatments, depending on the individual case. But the treatment must continue along the same line. And within a few minutes, this feeling of the presence comes, and the treatment is complete. It doesn't necessarily mean that you receive a full and complete healing, because remember, you're not suffering from any physical or mental condition. You're suffering from a universal belief, and you have not yet come to the realization of this. And so it may take 2 treatments or 2 years of treatments, depending on the individual case. But the treatment must continue along the same line until your own consciousness changes. And you commence to feel, I'm not the person I was a year ago. I'm not the person I was a month ago. And you feel within yourself that you are not responding anymore to the weather or the climate or whatever the particular belief may have been that was causing you your trouble. In other words, your entire consciousness is changing. Now, one thing that helps it change quickly is this practice. The more you get accustomed to looking at every appearance, regardless of how horrible it may be, and realizing that right here is the grace of God, and any appearance to the contrary has no law of God to uphold it, you are developing your consciousness into a transparency for truth. The more you get accustomed to looking at every appearance, regardless of how horrible it may be, and realizing that right here is the grace of God, and any appearance to the contrary has no law of God to uphold it, you are developing your consciousness into a transparency for truth. You are really getting rid of, wearing away material consciousness and revealing that which underlies your consciousness, which is spiritual consciousness. The very practice of the presence of God, the very practice of contemplative meditation, the practice of this method of treatment is the very practice that spiritualizes our consciousness, that takes away from us our hate, love, and fear of the material scene, and leaves us with an inner realization of its unreality. Like passing the children and seeing 2 times 2 is 5, our mathematical perception enables us to smile, not be horrified, but to smile at this error, and then realize 4. And so, as you practice these 3 practices, you come to the place where you do inwardly, not outwardly, but inwardly smile at these discords and realize, I'm no longer fooled. Now I perceive. This is the grace of God. And this appearance has no law. And you go on your way rejoicing, thankful that you have perceived that which material sense could never know. Because to material sense, remember, that's very real. That sin, that disease, that false appetite, that's very, very real. But you have come to the place now where your consciousness is so purified that you know that only God is real, and only the presence of God is standing here as an individual, and the appearance, Antichrist. Universal mental malpractice, belief in two powers, arm of flesh, nothingness. You find it changes your whole nature. It makes you able to be like the Master. Even if you see the woman taken in adultery, you won't shudder anymore. You won't be so terribly shocked. You won't be horrified by the picture. You'll smile within yourself and say, this is the very grace of God, the very child of God itself, and this appearance is the illusion which has no power of God to maintain it or sustain it, and then this woman turns around and becomes a follower of the Christ. You bear witness to many dying people, but because you will not any longer be so fearful of material law or mental law, you also will inwardly be able to say, this is the very Christ of God, the very presence of God, the very grace of God in action, and these appearances, universal belief in two powers, Antichrist, mesmeric mind, nothingness. Always remember that when you are negating, you are not fighting the error. You're not using one power over another. You're realizing the nothingness of that which appears as material or mental horror. If you ever allow yourself to go back to using truth or using God or trying to use one power to overcome an evil power, you're outside the entire infinite way. You're not within the realm of its practice, because its entire practice is based on not using truth, not using God, not needing a God, because the evil that you're aware of is not a person, is not a condition, it is only a malpractice, an illusion, the arm of flesh, nothingness. Therefore, never fight error, never fight evil, never try to overcome it, never try to rise above it, never try to use a truth to destroy it while you are practicing the infinite way, and then you will develop a state of consciousness in which you can walk up and down the Holy Lands, and if somebody sits there crippled and says, please help me, you can say, you don't need any help. What did hinder you? Pick up your bed and walk. Then you'll know what true humility is. Then you'll know how horrible it is for anyone ever to say, I have a good healing consciousness, or I'm a good healer, or I can do good healing work. You'll know that true humility means that you haven't any such powers at all. You have merely reached the stage of discernment in which you know that God is the only power, and He's doing a good job without your help. And this appearance doesn't need anything but your recognition of its nothingness. That is it. That is it. Thank you. Till tomorrow.